Hi, and welcome to the Post-Burnout Growth Podcast, Real Talk with Ali and me, Avril. This is our space, real conversations, unedited, unscripted, to help you feel less alone, less isolated in the experience of burnout. This is us showing up in the sense and the spirit of encouragement to help you find your own way forward and take one tiny step through this process. So, hello, Ali. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Lovely to see you as always. So
Good to hear.
what are we gonna chat about today then?
So, following on from the last couple of conversations we've had, and also some of the themes I know I struggled with, I was wondering if we could talk today a little bit more about asking for help. And why it sounds like we hear it all the time in the self-development world, and we're probably seeing a lot of it in self-help books and on podcasts and in other social media content. But asking for help when you're burning out and when you've already got maybe certain patterns that make you think, you can do it all. Asking for help isn't the easiest.
Mm-mm.
So I wanted to kind of kick us off on that conversation today. And, we also talked a few episodes ago about like the whole I'm feeling fine and I'm
Mm.
fine as the default response. So I wanted to kick us off there and let's see where the conversation goes today.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that sounds grand. Yeah, I've definitely been known by others, by friends who perhaps had a sense of what else was going on, of saying that I'm fine.
Yeah.
Especially having a kind of hyper independence streak, which
Hmm.
kind of kept me in that, yep, I'm fine, everything's okay, I'm all right, I can handle this all by myself, whatever this is, I didn't really know.
Hmm.
But I think when we think about I'm fine and making the step or making the transition from I'm fine to actually I need help.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what that help is. I'm not sure who can help me, but I need to start asking some people in some shape, form, or fashion about asking for help. And I see it a lot on social media, people saying, you really need to ask for help. You need to have the courage to ask for help. It's courageous to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. And
Hmm.
I'm 100% behind that it's not a sign of weakness. It is absolutely strength, but there's more to it than that. It's not as straightforward. And I think that often it gets trivialized of, oh, just ask for help, or why didn't you ask for help? And I think we
Hmm.
spoke about it in another episode where we were chatting about sometimes you just don't know what's going on with you. You know you
Hmm.
don't feel good. You've got a plethora of emotions, like, bubbling under the surface. You are feeling a sense of despondency. You feel this kind of like heady tiredness, from having lots of perhaps areas in your life that are just really misaligned, and
Hmm.
you've got lots of unmet needs, but you don't necessarily have the self awareness to know exactly what that all is. You're just feeling all sorts of things. You're maybe thinking all sorts of things. And that alone can feel deeply overwhelming. And I think you also spoke about this actually in another episode about even just having the language
Hmm.
to articulate what's going on. And then where do you go from all of that to actually asking for help, right? There's a ton of things that could be going on for any individual. And sometimes, that asking for help can feel like a Michael Jordan sized leap and not a
Hmm.
flippant, oh, just ask for help or just ask someone. And it's like, yeah, but ask them what? Tell them what? And I don't know how
Hmm.
that resonates for you. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, massively. When you said ask them what and tell them what, like as I was listening to you, the thought bubble in my head was where to start, what to
Mm,
say, especially when you talked about, the sense of those misaligned needs. And in that moment, and again, reflecting on my journey, but also on the journey that I when I work with my own clients, is we don't always have a very clear point of where that sense of like, I just want to take a step forward, but what am I stepping into or stepping towards? And
Mm.
so that sense of overwhelm, I remember my experience of it was like fog, just so much of fog. And this is, I'm not necessarily saying that in the context of brain fog, which can then again be a huge part of burnout. Um, but it was just like everything, it was the smallest things and the biggest things kind of all collided together. And so to your point about who to tell, what to tell, where to start, like all of these, and sometimes that in itself was like, how does one move forward from here? But I really wanted to sort of circle back to something we were talking about outside of this recorded conversation. And I remember you remarked to me that, asking for help, it's not a straightforward thing. I want to say, you didn't say it's complicated. You said it's layered, it's nuanced. It's so easy to go, you should have asked for another one of those shoulds. Yeah, I should have known better. Of course, I would have asked for. Um, but what I loved was when you talked about that in the context of sometimes we are sharing with the people who are closest to us or who matter to us, or for instance, it might be in the workplace, you might be sharing this with the manager, but the person on the other side who's receiving this information may or may not have the capacity, the tools, the listening skills to be able to receive this information and appropriately process it and then reflect it back in a way that helps the person who's sharing
Mm.
forward. So I wanted if you could just touch a little bit more on that, and so we could draw that conversation out a little bit more for our
Mhm.
listeners who may be experiencing that as they try to ask for help.
Yeah. So I think what I was chatting about before, not in this conversation, was about
Hmm.
there's the asking for help, but there's also what's on the other side of that.
Hmm.
And when we're in a space of burnout and stress and overwhelm, we're probably not massively thinking about the details or the possibilities of what that might look like. And I think we've spoken about a few times about telling the right person as well. So, whilst we cannot control how the other person will respond to us and what we share with them, um, we we can only share, I think, in the initial stages, when you're experiencing all of these intense feelings,
Hmm.
we tend to find that it's easiest to share when we feel safe to do so. And I think that that place of you might not know where you are, like where am I right now, what's happening right now, and you might not know where it is that you need to get to or you want to get to, but to
Hmm.
start that dialogue of be that asking for help or just expressing your feelings is doing so with someone whilst they may not be equipped and we cannot necessarily have you know, expectations of them to, come to our rescue, be our Superman, Superwoman, but can
Hmm.
be our listener, um, is being able to do that in itself whilst feeling safe. And I think we
Hmm.
spoke about this in another podcast about what might a first step be is having a conversation from a place of safety and trust. And I think that's where coaching conversations and coaching partnerships have huge value. Um, in finding a coach that you instantly feel at ease with, instantly feel like, yeah, I could talk to this person.
Hmm.
You don't know what's on the other side of that coaching relationship necessarily. There's a little bit of a leap of faith, but it's like I can talk to this person. It's easy to talk to this person. Actually, I'm saying things that I've maybe never said to anyone. And so
Hmm.
even if we don't know what's on the other side of the conversations we have, be it with a coach, a friend, a family member, a work colleague that we're close proximity to and they just happen to be there, it's that safety element around it all, I think, is absolutely key to perhaps then taking the step beyond expressing, this is the experience I'm having.
Hmm.
This doesn't feel good, and I'm not sure what to do about it. Um, and leaving it there, leaving it open, that in itself is a huge leap.
Yeah. Yeah, I that all resonates big time, especially around the safety piece. But again, coming back to what I may have said in previous episodes, and I didn't have the language for that term. Um,
Sorry, my door. I have to go get it. Sorry.
so while Ali is stepped away just very briefly to answer the door, we did promise you unedited conversation. So I'm just gonna um share with you just some of my reflections in terms of safety and trust. But I didn't have the language I didn't know what safety meant. And if I'm perfectly honest, it would take some years and almost coming into coaching qualification, etc., to learn the term psychological safety. Um, the sense of feeling safe, I think, is also within oneself. Is how safe do you feel with yourself to take that risk of going, I need to step out of myself and access some level of resource and support. I think in the context of asking for help, there's something I wanted to share that I think for me was kind of part helpful and then part unhelpful, and that was learning to discern um, how much of the story to tell, how much of the experience to share, but also who to share that with. And it has been a long journey to learning to discern who gets to hear how much of it. I say that again very specifically in the context of when I am sharing and when I am telling. And again, this is part of the work I help my clients with is what do I want from this telling? Am I venting in the asking for help, or am I I'm needing the space container to be listened to? So am I looking for attention or am I looking for affirmation? And so just some of these pieces around um we had this like, hey, in the 90s we'd call a friend and we would talk our heads off for 3 hours. And so that whole sense of when we are asking for help, what is it that we are wanting to do on the other side of it? What is the outcome that we're hoping for? Do we need that space in which we give air to the language and to the sensations and the feelings that are bubbling up inside of us to go, when I talk about this, okay, I am making a little bit more sense of this process, or are we wanting to vent and sort of have that emotional sort of outlet, but not with the intention of actually receiving some help that would then help us take this process and start to move us forward. So I think there are those kind of touch points around, is it affirmation? Is it attention I am seeking here? Nothing wrong, again, nothing right or wrong there. It's just checking in with yourself in terms of what I'm sharing, who I'm sharing with, and what would be a healthy outcome here. As Ali, as we sort of start to close and wrap up on this conversation, and probably the first of many conversations around asking for help and moving beyond the I'm fine response. Any closing thoughts or parting wisdom?
Um, just really to pick up on discernment isn't something that, if I'm honest with you, I really had um, as a skill or even capacity for at the time. And I had to kind of almost go on not the mental discernment, but the physical feeling, perhaps in my gut and my heart, that I could trust that person to share how I really was feeling and share what I was actually experiencing and the impact that that was having on my
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day life. Um, but having trust and feeling safe with others is a big part of all of this
Mm,
post-burnout growth journey. Um, and I think that's something we probably want to talk more about in some more episodes, actually.
sure.
So yeah, I think I would just say in the absence of perhaps feeling like you can get your head together when you're really struggling, try to tune in to how it feels in your heart or your gut, whichever you feel you can pick up on most strongly, and go from there. Even as you said before, it's about you don't have to necessarily say everything, but even just saying something is a small acknowledgement, admission, and way to embrace what's happening for you.
That is incredibly powerful there. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of our listeners who've been listening to today's episode of the Post Burnout Growth Podcast. We'll look forward to you joining us in one of our upcoming conversations. If you loved what you've been listening to, please give us a follow and definitely share this with someone else in your world who may be on the inside of burnout. And might think that they're all alone in it. They're absolutely not. So we look forward to having you with us in an upcoming conversation. This has been Real Talk with my friend Ali and me, Avril. Thank you for listening.
Bye.